Welcome to Breaking It All Down. I'm Count Zero. This week I'm taking a look at another film. In the past I've looked at the Jidaigeki genre of film, which is basically like Japanese swashbuckler films. Well, this week I'm looking at the wuxia genre, which is basically, in short, Chinese swashbuckler films. In particular, I'm looking at a film which brings in a lot of elements of the supernatural and Chinese mythology into the mix, and it's a film from one of the film studios from China that is best known for wuxia films, Shaw Brothers. The name of the film is Heaven and Hell. Now, before I talk about the film itself, I want to talk about some of the talented people who worked on this film and other films from the Shaw Brothers before this one. Specifically, I need to talk about the Venom Mob. The Venom Mob is a group of actors who made a name for themselves with the Shaw Brothers' hit film Five Deadly Venoms, which is a movie I will need to take a look at it in the future. The main members of the group are, and I'm probably going to horribly mangle their names, Kuo Chui, Lu Feng, Chang Sheng, Sun Qian, Lo Mang, and Wei Pai. These actors generally worked in front of the camera and contributed behind the camera by helping to choreograph the film's fights. There are various other people who worked with the group who are considered to be the seventh member of the Venom Mob, many of whom are fellow actors. I would say, though, that the seventh member of the Venom Mob isn't an actor, but rather a director. Specifically, Chang She. He directed Five Deadly Venoms and worked with many of the other members of the mob in other films. The film I'm reviewing today, Heaven and Hell, is no exception to this. Heaven and Hell is a film that's kind of something of an odd duck as far as movies go. If you give a darn about film, then you're familiar with the concept of the three-act structure. First act sets up the action and the characters and what the conflicts of the film are, and basically sets up the story that you'll be watching in the next hour and a half to however long the movie runs. Second act has rising action and builds up to the climax, raising the stakes and getting the audience more invested in the conflict. The third act has the climax and the ultimate resolution or denouement. Now, Heaven and Hell, well, this film interprets the idea of the three-act structure pretty differently. Almost kind of like an anthology film. The first act of the film is Heaven. In this part, we follow two members of the Celestial Court who are fairly low-ranking and who are in love with each other. Because of this reason, they can't get married in heaven, so they decide to elope to Earth. I presume the fact that they can't marry here is more related to the fact that this is Chinese heaven, and the characters are running into problems with the celestial bureaucracy. Yes, that's a thing. So the couple runs off to Earth, but they have to get past our protagonist for the film, Xin Ling, guardian of the gates of heaven. When Ling is moved by their sad story and lets them past, the Jade Emperor banishes him from heaven to Earth as a punishment. Oh, and as far as the eloping couple is concerned, we never see them again. Nor do we see the Jade Emperor again. Act 2, Earth, is where things get stylistically weird. The story shifts to another couple who are romantically involved. However, they are tragically separated when the girl is kidnapped by a gangster to be his wife. The boy enlists Ling, who is currently working as a taxi driver, to help rescue her. However, as part of the escape, Ling ends up killing some gangsters before being mortally wounded and dying, meaning that he's going to go to Chinese hell. What makes this whole section weird is, with the exception of a little bit of a location shooting, this part is incredibly minimalist. The outside of the gangster's mansion is basically a short section of fence and a gate in front of a mock-up of a mansion exterior with a balcony. This section is also interpreted in part as a sort of musical, with the two lovebirds singing a poppy song together, and some of the fight scenes being more exaggerated than most martial arts fight scenes, in a fashion kind of reminiscent of films like West Side Story. The third act of the film takes us to Chinese hell. And, well, if you've seen Big Trouble in Little China, you know the Chinese mythology has a lot of hells. And when Ling witnesses the corruption in hell, he decides he's got to get out of here. So he teams up with a bunch of brave warriors who ended up in hell after suffering violent deaths, and also a young woman who ended up in hell after falling out of a window of an apartment while high on drugs, to basically get out of hell and overthrow the king of hell, with the assistance of the Buddha of Mercy. In the process, these fighters must also overcome the warriors who killed them in the first place. So, Heaven and Hell, with its odd shift in style and tone, could be described as, well, almost as it was made on drugs. Except it's not. It really doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like a film that is being made by a director who's trying to make the best of a bad situation. You can kind of tell by how the film's sets are designed, the very abstract take that's done for Heaven and Earth, that it feels like they're given a very tight budget and a very short filming time. And consequently, they don't only really go all out on one of the three worlds. And so the director, Che, decided to go all out with Hell, which makes sense. Hell is the one place where, of the three, where you can reasonably say the audience doesn't have a consistent view of what it would be like. As I mentioned when describing the Hell section, Chinese mythology has got a lot of hells. And so there's a lot of possible ways this can be interpreted, and a lot of detail people have in their imaginations of what it would be like. So I can understand wanting to go more all out here for that. I mean, frankly, we know what the modern day world looks like, and Chinese audiences would know what modern Hong Kong, or if they're a mainland audience, which might be somewhat unlikely considering the time, they have an idea what their city looks like, what Hong Kong or Taiwan or Beijing is like. You don't need to tell somebody, you don't need to go spend as much time doing expository shots, I guess is the best way to put it. As opposed to, say, if you're showing a Western audience Hong Kong, like with Enter the Dragon. So, taking the more abstract take works for that. Generally, most people also have a common idea of what heaven's like. There may be some variations from person to person, but all kind of have a gist of what heaven is. So, again, we can go more abstract there. So, and thus, consequently, for the Earth segments, whether this is for the various companions of Zin while he's in Hell for the final battle, or during Zin's time on Earth, they can basically, if they're going to do location stuff, they can do some basic stuff on the Shaw Brothers lot, like offices, or like the apartments nearby, or that sort of thing. Very simple, straightforward stuff that doesn't need to be too elaborate. If you are using sets, use standing sets. It works really well. I honestly say that probably because of the limitations, the film comes across to be more inventive, more clever than it would perhaps if they'd gone more all out. If they'd still gone all out, they'd gotten a full big budget for a movie like this and made things more elaborate, it still would work great. It still would have looked great. There wouldn't have been a strike against it. But the low budget and the minimalist sets give the film a certain degree of charm that it wouldn't have had otherwise. I would definitely recommend, if you're a fan of the genre, seeking this out. I wouldn't make this my first wuxia film. If you're new to the genre, I'd go with something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or, for that matter, Five Deadly Venoms, over this one for your first go. But if you've seen a few and you want to try something different, this is a good place to go. Next time, I'm taking a look at the next book in the Cities in Flight series, Book 3, Earthman Come Home. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit the like button or thumbs up, depending on what platform you're watching this on. And also subscribe to this channel when you want to know about my next updates for videos, either in this series or my Nintendo Power retrospectives. So, I'll see you next time.